The Burning Chapter 1, First Contact, Day 1, New York City. The ships appeared at dawn, not with fanfare or warning broadcasts, no Independence Day-style spectacle giving humanity time to panic, pray, or flee. They simply were, as if they'd been edited into reality between one heartbeat and the next, massive wedge-shaped vessels, each one large enough to cast entire neighborhoods into shadow, hanging in the sky like guillotine blades waiting to fall. Dr. Sarah Chen was 3 blocks from Columbia University when the first beam fired. She'd been thinking about coffee, specifically, whether the corner bodega would have those cinnamon rolls she liked, when the sky turned white. Not bright, white, as if color itself had been deleted from the world. Then came the sound, not an explosion, but something worse. A deep, resonant hum that bypassed her ears entirely and vibrated through her bones, her teeth the marrow of her spine. When her vision returned, the Chrysler Building was gone, not destroyed, not collapsed, just gone. Where Art Deco steel and glass had pierced the skyline moments before, there was now a perfectly cylindrical void, edges still glowing with residual heat. The buildings around it stood untouched, their windows reflecting the impossible absence. Sarah stood frozen on the sidewalk, her bag of groceries slipping from nerveless fingers. Oranges rolled into the gutter. Somewhere nearby, a car alarm shrieked. Then the screaming started. Day 1. Beijing General Wei Xiaoming was in the middle of a strategic briefing when his aide burst through the door. Face ashen, protocol abandoned. Sir, they're over the city. Multiple contacts. We count at least, and the windows exploded inward. Not from blast pressure, from heat. The air itself seemed to catch fire as a lance of impossible energy speared down from the sky, punching through the Ministry of Defense building 7 floors above them. The beam passed through concrete and steel like they were rice paper, leaving a hole so clean and hot that the edges glowed orange. Wei threw himself behind his desk as his aide simply ceased to exist. One moment a young man in uniform, the next a shadow burned into the wall and a smell like burnt copper. The general's tactical mind, trained through decades of service, tried to process what was happening. Orbital strike? New American weapon? But the radar had shown nothing. Another beam, this one 3 blocks north, then another. Another. A drumbeat of annihilation, precise and methodical, targeting command centers, military installations, government buildings. Not random destruction, surgical decapitation. Wei crawled to the shattered window and looked up. The sky was full of them. Day 1. London Prime Minister Elizabeth Hartwell was on BBC News, trying to maintain calm as reports flooded in from around the globe. When Parliament dissolved into vapor behind her, the camera kept rolling. It captured everything. The moment her eyes widened, the split second of comprehension, her mouth forming a word that would never be spoken. Then the feed cut to static. The footage would play on loop for the next 3 days on every surviving screen, every refugee camp's rigged-up projector. Humanity's last leaders dying live on air, trying to the end to do what leaders do, stand between their people and the dark. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Day 2. Everywhere. By the second day, the pattern became clear. They weren't invading. They were erasing military bases gone, power plants vaporized. Dams, bridges, highways, airports, all reduced to glowing craters or twisted metal graveyards. And when the armies tried to fight back, tried to scramble jets or launch missiles, the Varnek ships demonstrated something terrifying. They were fast. An F-35 would lock on, fire its payload and watch as the alien vessel simply wasn't there anymore. It would reappear 3 miles away behind the jet and erase it from the sky with casual precision. Russian submarines launched their entire nuclear arsenal at a single ship hovering over the Barents Sea. The warheads detonated harmlessly against a shimmering barrier that seemed to treat gigatons of destructive force like raindrops on a windshield. Then the ship returned fire. The submarine base at Murmansk stopped existing. So did Murmansk. By nightfall of Day 2, the world's governments had ceased to function, not because they surrendered. They never got the chance. The Varnek simply removed them, excising command structures like a surgeon removing tumors. Day 4, the broadcast. When the message came, It arrived on every screen, every phone, every speaker simultaneously. Hacked systems broadcast it. Dead systems flickered to life just to relay it. Even Sarah Chen's phone, battery drained, screen cracked from her desperate flight through Manhattan's burning streets, lit up with the transmission. The face that appeared was almost human. Almost. The proportions were wrong. Eyes too wide set. Skin with a faint iridescent quality. Bone structure that suggested something evolved under a different sun. But it could smile and did with something that might have been amusement. People of Earth, it said in flawless English, and simultaneously in Mandarin, Arabic, Spanish, and every other language. You are now subjects of the Varnix Empire. Your world has been claimed. Your resistance has been noted and judged irrelevant. In 3 days, compliance will be mandatory. Those who cooperate will be permitted to survive as labor resources. Those who resist will be sterilized. A pause. That terrible smile widened. Your planet is beautiful. We will enjoy it once you are gone. Do not make this difficult. The screens went dark. Day 7, New York City. Ruins. Sarah crouched in the basement of what had once been a Starbucks, rationing her last protein bar among the 12 survivors who'd found shelter there. They'd learned quickly. Stay underground, stay quiet, stay invisible. The ships patrolled constantly, their sensors sweeping through rubble like predators' eyes. Above them, the city burned. She'd stopped counting the dead after the first million. The mind couldn't hold numbers that large. They became abstract, meaningless. But she remembered faces. The barista who'd known her order by heart. The homeless veteran who'd always sat by the subway entrance. The neighbor's child who'd played violin at all hours. All gone. Maybe we should... The voice belonged to Marcus, a teacher from Queens. Maybe we should just go up there, surrender. They said compliance. They're sterilizing entire cities. Sarah cut him off, her voice hoarse from smoke inhalation. Haven't you seen the eastern seaboard feeds? Philadelphia is ash. Baltimore is a crater. They're not here to accept surrender, Marcus. They're here to inherit. Then what do? A woman named Elena cradling a sleeping child. We can't fight them. We can't even hide forever. What the hell do we do? Sarah had no answer. Outside, something massive moved through the ruins. The ground trembled. They huddled together in the dark, holding their breath, praying to gods who seemed to have abandoned Earth entirely. The footsteps, if that's what they were, faded. For now, they lived. For now. Day 10. Orbital Station Vex Prime High. Admiral Zexthor stood before the holographic projection of Earth, watching kill zones update in real time. Green sectors pacified. Yellow, resistance pockets being eliminated. Red, high-priority eradication zones. The planet was mostly green now. Status on the final sweep? He asked his tactical officer. 92% complete, Admiral. Estimated human population reduced by 78%. Remaining concentration scattered, disorganized, no longer capable of coordinated resistance. The harvest facilities are under construction. Within 30 cycles, we'll begin processing survivors for labor extraction. Zexthor nodded, satisfied. Earth had been easier than expected. For a species that had split the atom and sent probes beyond their star system, they'd folded remarkably quickly. No hidden superweapons. No last-minute technological breakthrough. Just fragile biologicals dying as fragile biologicals always did. Prepare the colonization fleet. Signal the Empress. Earth is ours. The tactical officer began transmitting. Neither of them noticed the readings from deep scan sensors. Neither saw the anomalies beginning to register from the planet's mantle, from its ocean depths, from the ancient places where tectonic plates ground together in the darkness. Neither suspected that Earth was waking up, and it was angry. The Stirring Chapter 2, the first tremor, Day 12. Somewhere beneath the Andes Mountains, the change started where no human could see it. 3 miles below the surface, in chambers that had never known sunlight, something ancient shifted. Magma chambers that had been stable for millennia began to pulse with a rhythm that was almost deliberate. Seismographs around the world, the few still functioning, registered the activity as minor tremors. Unremarkable, especially amid the apocalypse raging above. But it wasn't minor. It was a heartbeat. Day 12. Peru, scattered survivors, Maria. Vasquez had been a geologist before the world ended. Now she was just another refugee, huddled with 24 others in an abandoned mining facility in the Peruvian highlands. The altitude had saved them. The Varnex seemed to focus on population centers, major infrastructure. Up here among the peaks, they'd been overlooked for now. She was checking the facility's old seismic equipment, more out of habit than necessity, when the readings spiked. That's not possible, she muttered, adjusting the sensors, certain they'd been damaged. What's not possible? Carlos, an engineer, leaned over her shoulder. This, Maria pointed to the display. These readings are showing coordinated seismic activity across multiple fault lines. Peruchile Trench, San Andreas, Anatolian, Himalayan Front, all of them simultaneously. But they're not moving like normal tectonic shifts. Look at the pattern. Carlos squinted. The wave patterns were regular, rhythmic, like something was breathing. Equipment malfunction? Across every sensor network? All showing the same anomaly? Maria shook her head. Either every seismograph on the planet is broken or the ground lurched beneath them. Not a tremor. Not an earthquake. Something else entirely. It felt like the earth had tensed, the way a sleeping animal twitches when disturbed. Loose equipment clattered. Dust rained from the ceiling. And for just a moment Maria could have sworn she heard something. Not with her ears, but in her bones. A sound like grinding consonants. Like the voice of stone. Enough. Then it stopped. The others stared at her, wide-eyed. Did you feel that? Someone whispered. Maria didn't answer. She was staring at the seismograph, watching as the readings spiked again, then organized themselves into a pattern that made her blood run cold, because patterns meant intelligence, and the planet was writing something in earthquake code. Day 13, Montana. United States former Sergeant Jake Reeves had survived Kabul, Syria, and the first week of the Varnex invasion, through a combination of training, luck, and sheer stubbornness. Now he led a group of 40 survivors through the Montana wilderness, heading for rumors of an underground military bunker that might still have supplies. They were crossing a valley when the sky darkened. A Varnex patrol ship, smaller than the city killers but still massive, drifted overhead like a shark through water. Its sensors swept the area in visible beams of blue light. Down. Everyone down, Jake hissed. They scattered, pressing themselves into ditches, under trees, behind rocks. Jake's heart hammered as the ship slowed, hovering directly above them. The beam swept closer. Closer. It found them. The ship's weapons ports began to glow. Jake closed his eyes, whispering apologies to people who were already dead. And the mountain moved. Not an avalanche. Not a rockslide. The entire mountainside to their west simply stood up, shedding earth and trees like a dog shaking off water. What had appeared to be a peak revealed itself as something else entirely. A colossus of stone and magma, roughly humanoid but vast beyond comprehension, its body streaked with rivers of molten rock that pulsed like veins. The first had awakened. It stood 3,000 feet tall, and when it turned its head, a massive outcropping of obsidian and granite toward the Varnex ship, Jake saw something that would haunt him forever. Eyes. Not carved, not mechanical, eyes, ancient and aware, glowing with the deep orange light of Earth's core. The ship fired. Energy beams that had erased armies and cities struck the Guardian's chest and simply absorbed. Invaders. Stone glowed white-hot where the beams hit, but didn't break. Didn't even crack. The first reached up with one arm, each finger a pillar of rock, and grabbed the ship. The Varnex vessel tried to escape, its engines screaming, warping space around it. It didn't matter. The Guardian's grip tightened and the ship crumpled like aluminum foil. Then the first brought both hands together and crushed it. Debris rained down, burning as the Colossus dropped the wreckage like a discarded toy. For a moment, the Guardian stood there, surveying the valley. Its gaze passed over the survivors. Jake felt the weight of it, like being noticed by a hurricane or a tidal wave. Not hostile. Not friendly. Simply aware. Then it took one step. The ground shook for miles and another. And another. Walking with the slow, inevitable pace of continents drifting. Heading east. Toward the coast. Toward the Varnex landing sites, Jake and his group lay in stunned silence long after it disappeared beyond the horizon. What? Someone finally whispered. What the fuck was that? Jake didn't have an answer, but for the first time since the ships appeared, he felt something that had almost been extinguished. Hope. Day 13. Orbital Station Vex Prime. Admiral, we've lost contact with Patrol Wing 7-4. Last transmission showed. Sir, you need to see this. Zexthor strode to the tactical display, irritation flashing across his features. Losing a patrol wing to human resistance was embarrassing but hardly unprecedented. Primitives occasionally got lucky. Then he saw the footage. The recording from the patrol ship's final moments was choppy, damaged, but clear enough. It showed something rising from the earth, something that could not exist. A being of living stone, impossibly large, moving with purpose and power. What is that? Zexthor breathed. Unknown, sir. But the tactical officer brought up more reports. We're getting similar contacts across the globe. Something emerged from the Mariana Trench and destroyed the Pacific Survey Fleet. 3 landing sites in Africa went dark after witnesses reported the translation says storm given form, and the European forces are reporting, show me. The screen split into multiple feeds. Each showed something different yet somehow the same. Entities of impossible scale, born from Earth itself, rising to meet the invaders. A thing of water and pressure from the deepest ocean. A being of lightning and wind that swept through clouds like they were part of its body. A creature that seemed to be made of compressed time and fossilized history, its form constantly shifting between past and present. Zexthor watched in silence as his forces were scattered, destroyed, driven back by things that defied every natural law he understood. These readings can't be real, he said finally. Nothing biological can achieve this scale, nothing. They're not biological, sir. At least not as we understand it. Initial scans suggest they're composed of planetary matter, living extensions of the world itself. Their reading is part of Earth's mass on gravitational sensors. Sir, the officer's voice cracked. Sir, I think the planet is defending itself. A long silence fell over the command center. Get me the Empress, Zexthor said quietly. Tell her we need the breaker fleet, all of it. But sir, the breaker fleet is for cracking fortified worlds. If we deploy it here, look at those screens, Commander. We're not fighting humans anymore. We're fighting Earth, and if we can't control it... He paused, jaw tight. Then we'll break it. Day 14, New York City. Ruined Sarah was scavenging for water when the ocean rose up. She'd made it to the remnants of Battery Park, hoping to collect rainwater from the pools forming in blast craters, when the Hudson and East Rivers began to churn. Others in her group stopped, staring. The water was moving against the current, flowing upward, defying gravity as it coalesced into something that might have been shaped by a sculptor having a fever dream. It formed a vaguely humanoid shape, hundreds of feet tall, made entirely of swirling seawater. Deep currents visible within its body like arteries. Fish swam through its torso. Kelp and ancient things from the deep drifted in its form, the deep one. It turned, fluidly, inevitably, and walked out to sea. Each step a tsunami that somehow never quite touched the shore, as if it was being careful around the fragile humans sheltering in the ruins. Sarah watched it go, tears streaming down her face, though she couldn't have said if they were from fear or wonder or sheer overwhelming relief that something, anything was fighting back. We're not alone, Marcus whispered beside her. We were never alone. In the distance they heard the sounds of battle, ships exploding, the roar of something that might have been rage or might have been the planet itself, screaming defiance at those who thought to take it. The tide was turning, and Earth was going to war.